Imagine walking through a crowded street where thousands of people move past you, each living inside a private world you will never fully understand. Every face hides a story, every posture hides a wound, and every choice hides a reason that even the person making it may not truly know. And yet, without realizing it, most of us move through life assuming we understand ourselves completely. But pause for a moment. Think about how many of your decisions were made not from clarity but from fear. How many paths you rejected not because they were wrong for you but because someone long ago convinced you that you weren't ready or capable or worthy. Think about how many of your beliefs you inherited before you had the consciousness to question them. Today, we begin a journey not into the world outside, but into the world within. The place where your identity was shaped long before you learned to examine it. A place where your desires formed in silence, where your fears learned to crawl into the corners of your mind, and where the contradictions you carry began their quiet work of influencing your life. Stay with me until the end, because the final insight of this session is the one most people run from. Not because it's difficult, but because it holds up a mirror to the truths we spend years avoiding. Before we begin, take one slow breath. Let your mind settle. And if this message already feels like it's speaking to a part of you that's been ignored, like the video. It helps this journey reach others who might need it too. Now, let's go inward. For most of your life, you believed the voice inside your head was your voice. You believed your preferences were your authentic choices, your fears were simply your nature, and your habits were the result of intentional living. But what if much of who you are was shaped for you long before you had the awareness to resist it? Every person wears a mask, not one crafted with lies, but one built from subtle moments that accumulated over time. A small criticism from someone you admired, a moment in childhood that made you hide a part of yourself, a compliment that pushed you into a role you never meant to play, a failure that convinced you to stop trying in a certain direction. None of these moments seem powerful on their own, but together, they form the version of you that you show the world. The mask itself is not the problem. The problem is that somewhere along the way, you forgot you were wearing it. Deep inside, whether you admit it or not, you feel a quiet contradiction. The tension between the part of you that wants to live freely and the part of you that fears what freedom demands. Freedom is not about having endless choices. Freedom is about having the responsibility to choose consciously. And the truth is, most people avoid this responsibility, so they drift. They follow trends instead of purpose. They seek validation instead of direction. They silence discomfort with entertainment and noise, hoping that the emptiness will fade. But it doesn't. It waits. And one day, a person wakes up with a sudden heaviness, realizing the life they've been living doesn't feel like theirs. They don't know how it happened, only that somewhere along the way, the world spoke louder than their inner voice, and they stopped listening to themselves. Inside you is a self you abandoned without meaning to, a self you grew away from, a self you replaced with what was expected, what was safe, what was applauded. The work of this journey is not to destroy who you are now, but to find your way back to the part of you that existed before the world taught you who to be. Somewhere beneath the noise, beneath the habits, beneath the fears, is a truth you haven't heard in a long time. the truth of what you actually want, the truth of who you have the potential to become, the truth of the life you were meant to live if you had never been afraid. And here is the insight most people avoid. Your life will not change because the world becomes easier. It will change because you become someone who no longer betrays your inner self. The world outside is loud, but the world within you is waiting. Waiting for you to hear it. Waiting for you to return to it. Waiting for you to stop living as the version others shaped and start becoming the version you were meant to discover. This is where our journey begins. Not with answers, but with awareness. Not with perfection, but with honesty. Not with control, but with courage. If this first step resonated with you, like the video and prepare yourself. Session 2 goes deeper into the part of you that resists transformation even when it knows it desperately needs it. Every person reaches a moment in life when they realize something quietly unsettling. The greatest obstacles they face are not outside them, but inside them. You've likely felt it before, a strange resistance that rises whenever you try to change. You tell yourself you'll be more disciplined, more present, more honest, more courageous. Yet the moment you stand at the edge of transformation, something inside pulls you back. It's not laziness, it's not weakness, it's not lack of desire. It's fear, but not fear of failure. That's too simple. What you truly fear is becoming someone unfamiliar, because becoming someone new means letting go of the version of you that has kept you safe for years. Safety is powerful. Even when it hurts you, even when it limits you, even when it suffocates your potential. You cling to the familiar because the familiar gives you identity. There is a part of your mind that would rather stay in a life you've outgrown than risk stepping into a life where the old rules no longer apply. This is why transformation feels like breaking, because you're not just changing habits, you're dismantling the psychological walls that once protected you. Think about every time you tried to step into a new chapter, a new project, a new direction, a new identity, a new version of yourself. And suddenly, you felt tired, unmotivated, distracted, confused, emotionally heavy for no reason. People call this self-sabotage. But that's not accurate. What you're experiencing is the mind defending its old identity. Your mind would rather stay in a painful past it understands than walk into a future it cannot predict. This is what Jung meant by the shadow. The parts of yourself you abandoned, ignored, rejected, or feared. They don't disappear. They wait. And when you try to change, they rise. Not to punish you, not to ruin your life, but because they are demanding to be seen. The hardest truth you will face on this journey is this: you cannot become who you're meant to be while hiding from who you've been. You have to confront the parts of you that you've pretended were gone. The anger you never processed. The sadness you minimized. The insecurity you masked with confidence. The loneliness you drowned in distraction. The guilt you tried to bury under productivity. The fear that made you shrink your dreams. If you don't face these parts, they become the invisible hands shaping your choices. You'll think you're deciding your future, but in reality, your unexamined past is deciding it for you. This is why people repeat the same relationships, the same failures, the same emotional patterns. Not because they want to, but because the past never left them. It simply learned how to disguise itself. And now, We go deeper. There is a moment in every transformation where you stand at an emotional crossroads. One path leads to the life you want, the other leads to the life you're familiar with, and the mind almost always tries to drag you back toward familiarity. Why? Because new versions of you require new responsibilities. A wiser version of you must make wiser decisions. A stronger version of you must take stronger actions. A healed version of you must stop using pain as an excuse. An awakened version of you must stop pretending you don't know what needs to be done. Your old identity knows this, and it fears being replaced. So it tricks you into smallness, into delay, into overthinking, into emotional fog, into I'll start tomorrow, into maybe it's not the right time, into I don't think I can handle this. But here's the truth you often forget. If the version of you that keeps shrinking was strong enough to survive everything you've been through, the version of you waiting to emerge is strong enough to build everything you dream of. What you feel as fear is actually the friction of psychological rebirth. What you feel as anxiety is the mind letting go of control. What you feel as resistance is the old self dying. Every breakthrough in life requires the death of an old identity. Not destruction, transformation. You're not losing yourself. You're shedding what you're no longer meant to carry. The world tells you growth is beautiful. But the truth is, growth is messy. Growth is uncomfortable. Growth feels like chaos. Growth first feels like losing everything before it feels like gaining anything. And that is why so few people truly change. Because real change demands that you walk through a season where nothing feels stable. But if you're here listening to this message, something in you is ready. Something in you is tired of repeating the same cycles. Something in you is whispering that you cannot keep living as the understudy in your own life. You feel the tension because you are standing at the doorway of a new identity. And the old one is fighting for its life. This is where courage begins. Not in feeling ready, not in feeling confident, not in feeling fearless. Courage begins when you move forward even while shaking. And before we continue to the deepest part of this journey in session 3, I want you to remember this one truth. You are not becoming someone new. You are returning to the person you are always meant to be. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to the Quiet Paradox, because the final session will reveal the most important shift of all. What happens when you stop running from your inner self and finally learn to walk with it? There comes a moment in every inner journey when the truth you've been circling finally steps into the light. Not the truth about the world, not the truth about others, but the truth about you. And it arrives quietly, not as a loud revelation, but as a whisper you've ignored for years. You are the one who has been holding yourself back, not because you are weak, not because you are broken, but because somewhere along the way you learned to fear your own potential. Every human carries an inner wound, the wound of self-betrayal. The moments when you felt something deeply but didn't speak it. When you knew what you wanted but didn't pursue it. When you sensed the truth but chose the comfortable lie. When you abandoned your inner voice to follow the noise around you. These small betrayals accumulate layer by layer until you begin to mistake the silence of your soul for the absence of one. But your soul never disappeared. You just stopped recognizing its voice. This is why people feel lost even when life looks fine from the outside. This is why you feel restless even when you have everything you once prayed for. This is why you feel disconnected even in a room full of people. Your life is not lacking meaning. You're simply disconnected from the part of you that creates it. Inside you is a self you avoided because facing it means facing what you've denied, the dreams you buried, the gifts you minimized, the courage you postponed, the intuition you ignored, the emotions you labeled too much, the brilliance you were taught to dim. This part of you is not your enemy. It's the part of you that has been waiting for permission to exist again. And now we arrive at the final realization, the one that changes everything. Healing does not come from becoming stronger, it comes from becoming honest. Strength built on denial collapses. Strength built on performance exhausts you. Strength built on pretending robs you of who you are. But strength built on truth, even painful truth, makes you unshakable. You're not meant to be a perfect person. You're meant to be a whole person. Wholeness requires courage. Not the courage to fight the world, but the courage to sit with yourself without running. Imagine for a moment that you stopped negotiating with your fears, stopped apologizing for your depth, stopped shrinking your voice, stopped diluting your desires, stopped abandoning yourself to make others comfortable. What kind of life would emerge from that version of you? Think about it. How much energy have you wasted pretending to be fine? How many years have you lost delaying the truth? How many opportunities have passed because you convinced yourself you weren't ready? The truth is, you were ready. You were always ready. You were simply afraid to outgrow the identity that others found easier to understand. But you are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to understand yourself. And now comes the most powerful shift of all. The moment you stop running from your inner self, everything changes. Your relationships change. Your decisions change. Your boundaries change. Your sense of purpose sharpens. Your confidence no longer feels like a performance. It feels like alignment. You stop attracting chaos. You stop chasing people. You stop repeating old emotional cycles. You stop living on autopilot. You stop expecting your old life to nurture your new self. Instead, you begin creating a life that doesn't require you to betray yourself to maintain it. You learn that not everyone can follow you into your growth, and you finally make peace with that. You realize that you don't need more motivation. You need more honesty. You discover that clarity doesn't come from thinking harder. It comes from listening deeper. You start to see that the person you've been searching for was never in the world outside. It was the one inside you, waiting for the silence to speak again. And here is the final truth this journey leads you to. Your life will transform the moment you decide that your inner voice deserves as much loyalty as the people you've spent your life trying to please. If this message touched something within you, if it made you pause, if it made you feel seen, then share your thoughts in the comments. Your words might be the reminder someone else needs. Thank you for walking through this journey. Remember this. Your evolution begins not when life changes, but when you decide to stop betraying yourself.